Okay, folks, another stack. And thankfully for you, this will not be a long one in the dark of the night. This is a classic philosophical classic written by Jean-Paul Sartre, Critique of Dialectical Reason. This is the first volume of a 2-volume set. This first volume basically deals with collectives, ensembles, totalization, stuff like that. This is probably his most serious philosophical work that he did. It's less literary than the rest of his stuff. He did a ton of speed while writing this. This is well known, and it's often joked about. But it's a pretty serious work, and it's very interesting stuff about theories of ensembles and organizations and stuff like that, and societal groups, and how the dialectic moves in society and stuff like that. And he starts off with a chapter that probably needed to be written: the dogmatic dialectic and the critical dialectic. And he basically leaned on the side that you don't want to use it as a framework to basically cookie cut everything. You have to use it in a critical way. And it's a very interesting work, very lengthy too. It's about over 800 pages, but interesting. Okay, here's another book: Logic and the Art of Memory: The Quest for a Universal Language, by Paolo Rossi. And it's a really, really neat book. Theaters of the World, Power of Images and the Places of Memory, and has a bunch of appendix. The sources of Leibniz's universal character. Basically, Leibniz searching for a universal character to basically build a universal language. And artificial memory and the new scientific method. It talks about that too, which is it's a very contemporary topic that we must deal with in this age. This book is very interesting, to say the least. Very esoteric. Great work, though, by Paolo Rossi. Very scholarly. Nice notes. Okay, next up is a series of 5 plays by Heinrich von Kleist. There's a picture of the guy, kind of a fat-faced, cherubic-looking fellow. You've got the Prince of Homburg, Amphitryon, and the Broken Jug, and Penthesilea, and Prince Frederick of Homburg, and the Tragedy of Robert Guiscard. Good stuff. Von Kleist's plays are excellent, and his short stories are very good too. Really dig Kleist. Von Kleist, pardon. Nobleman. Okay, when we talk about philosophy and philosophical books, we think, oh, they're kind of dense and they're very, arcane and stuff. Well, I'm going to introduce you to one that's probably one of the funniest books ever written, The German Ideology by Karl Marx with Friedrich Engels. And it is the funniest. I mean, you go through it and it's hilarious. It really gets out of hand in part 3. It is just an incredible work. And the beginning is just incredible. I mean, it basically goes against the young Hegelians and some of their nonsense and their basic they're basically a travesty of Hegel himself, what they wrote. They basically used the Hegel's style and his dialectic as a model, which is not very wise. And this is a very great. It's basically a takedown of the young Hegelians, not Hegel himself. Marx always had respect for Hegel, and so did Engels too. Of course, they didn't agree with Hegel on everything, but they realized how revolutionary his work could be if seen in a different angle, and that's what they did when they began when they both worked together to build the framework of subsequent works, which basically ended up with Das Kapital, which is a great work. Good stuff. Very entertaining philosophical book. Okay, next up is the collected works of Goethe, great German polymath. He was a botanist, novelist, playwright, poet. Nothing he couldn't do. This is volume 2, collected works. His great play, Faust, part 1 and part 2. Really excellent. Tragic and funny in some cases, especially the character of Mephistopheles. Very excellent tragedy. Good stuff by Goethe. Next up is his famous Bildungsroman, Wilhelm Meister's Apprenticeship. Basically, this is about a man growing into the world and entering the world and growing through it, and his apprenticeship into the life. There's an interesting throughout. There's chapters, and then there's a section that's called "Confessions of a Beautiful Soul," which is basically a notebook written by a character, and it's a woman, a young lady, and it's very good. Goethe really gets into the heart of this person, and they confess some of the incidents in their lives and what has affected them and has changed their outlook on life. And interestingly enough, it's not Wilhelm Meister is not the main character. It's a separate part of the work. Good stuff. Okay, next up is an excellent work by Francis Yates called Giordano Bruno and the Hermetic Tradition. And again, you have these figures and stuff. Oh, look at this. This is really neat. Title page of Athanasius Kircher, Ars Magna Lucis et Umbra, the arts of great light and shadow, or shade. And that's from 1646. This is a very interesting. Giordano Bruno was brought to the stake for heresy, and he was always into Hermetic works like Trismegistus, Hermes Trismegistus, or whatever. And it goes into Ficino and all these other things, and it goes into the people that have influenced Giordano Bruno. And it's an excellent work. A lot of great plates here and a lot of interesting information. Nice work. Also, here's another one. Hyper Neurotomachia Polyphili, The Strife of Love in a Dream. And this is another esoteric work. And basically it follows the walks of a guy named Polyphili, and it's called The Strife of Love in a Dream. And it's really good. Description of the dawn. Phobos was emerging from blah, 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 blah. Good stuff, though. Published by Thames and Hudson. Hey, it's in English and American. Rivers through great cities. Okay, this is an excellent novel by Italo Svevo called Zeno's Conscience. It's about a married man. He's a chain smoker. Very interesting character. He goes to his father's death. His wife, and then he talks about the story of his marriage, and then he gets a mistress, and then at the end, the story of a business partnership, and then psychoanalysis, and then World War I begins. And it's a very good novel. And it's kind of a spoof on psychoanalysis a little bit. A lot of humor directed towards psychoanalysis. Okay, next up is another book by Francis Yates. Collected Essays, Volume 1, Francis Yates on Lull and Bruno. Again, another work that deals with collected essays by on Ramon Lull and the art of Ramon Lull and his influences. Ramon Lull and John Scott of Saragino. Okay, look at this stuff. Look at these plates. Awesome stuff. Look at that. Good stuff. Good stuff. Ooh, the tree. The tree of knowledge and the tree of life. All these trees. Look at them. Look at them. They're crazy. Go nuts. They're making my things. This is from my work by Ramon Lull, of course. Okay, and then you got the religious policy of Giordano Bruno, and the emblematic conceit, Renaissance philosophers in Elizabethan England. Couldn't get that right because of all the alliteration. It's really good esoteric stuff, interesting stuff, good stuff. I like to say good stuff. Good stuff, that good stuff. Okay, Anthony Burgess, a novel, A Dead Man in Deptford, and this is a novelization of the account of Christopher Marlowe's murder in a tavern. And I highly recommend this novel. It's very good. It's Burgess's, I think, his best. And it's by Carroll and Grab Publishers, Inc., New York. It's really good. Look at that. I love that little old script there. Good stuff. Set in the Elizabethan times. Death of Kent Marlowe, who was an immensely talented man. There's another work by Anthony Burgess called Burn. And it's about a man, an Irish artist who in the early years of the century goes rapidly to the bad, betting and abandoning women everywhere, debasing his talents as a composer and painter, and finally ending up within Hitler's Third Reich, at which point he vanishes. After his disappearance, the story passes to his two sons, one a doubting priest, the other suffering from a debilitating disease, who move across the troubled face of contemporary Europe before encountering their father in one final apocalyptic confrontation. This is a poem. This is a poetic work by Burgess. It's very interesting. Is it good? It's not bad. But is it good? To you and you and you and also you. That's nice of him to dedicate it to you and you and also you. Okay, next up is the Collected Dialogues of Plato, edited by Edith Hamilton and Huntington Cairns. And it's part of the Bollingen Series 1 LXXI. That would be 71. Princeton. And there's different translators for each dialogue. And they have a list of all the translators right here. God bless their souls. Very thin paper. A lot of the some of the lesser known dialogues like Statesman. Timaeus, of course, is well known. Laws is such a yawn. And then the letters are played out. Good stuff. Glad I have this one. Love Plato, despite his tendency towards embracing his tendency for embracing tyranny. Okay, this is an excellent book I got. Really love it. Giovanni Boccaccio's Genealogy of the Pagan Gods, Volume 1. Again, this is the Itati Renaissance Library. Great book. Really fat one, too. Look at that. Ooh. And this is Volume 1. I don't have Volume 2. Again, it is what it says it's about. It's about the genealogy. Look, you have it in Latin. And here we go. If I have understood correctly from the reports of German officer Donino of Parma, you, glorious king, greatly desire a genealogy of the pagan gods. Of course, Back in these days, they had to write for a custodian of their work who paid for their time and their work. And that was those times, these times, of Boccaccio, the great writer of the Decameron, which is outstanding. This is an outstanding book too, and it's really a neat work, especially for people who like mythology and stuff. Okay, next up is another incredible weighty tome, and it's the Enneads by Plotinus, translated by the great Stephen McKenna. And again, this is an excellent work dedicated to Anthony J. Damiani. You got these 6 Enneads, and basically Ennead means 9. Ennead means 9, and Enneads are a book in 9 parts, each Ennead. And it starts with Porphyry writing about it, and then we get into the Enneads themselves, the nature and source of evil and such. Good stuff. Last but not least, and this will close the this short video, is The Letters of Anton Chekhov, selected and edited by Avram Tormolinsky. And this is a really excellent work. I really like to get all I can get. I like to grab anything I can get by Chekhov, because he's a very interesting, despite his short life, he is a very interesting and full man. And he's very thoughtful, and he was born wise, as they say. And these are letters to his friends, his family, his wife, his mother, etc., etc. Good stuff. Really dig Chekhov. Chekhov's a good man, no matter what you want to say. And that is that for this. Let me put these back in short order. And I thank you for your patience. And have a great evening.